Recording. Hello, MLO Net. It's Mr. Fisher, Mr. Barker, and our good friend Leroy Romero. How you guys doing today?
Good, man. Leroy, I love the shirt, man. Sit up a little bit so everyone can see it. Good stuff.
It's awesome, buddy. So Leroy has known me for what, about almost 2 years now. I think we met fall 2016-ish. And I've watched you. I've talked to some other LOs that know you pretty well, including Tracy. And you weren't always an LO. I mean, you were a pretty hardcore agent at one point, right? Keller Williams agent?
Yeah, we started off. I can go through the story if it makes it easier for everyone so they understand. I started off as an LO back in 2009, kind of right where the market was a little crazy at Wells Fargo. And went out, got my license in 2010, and then back to Wells Fargo and just built my book within Wells Fargo per se. And then took a break in 2013 and decided to go help my wife build her real estate team. So did that for a couple of years, took a couple of real estate coaching programs on there, and we accelerated pretty quickly on the real estate side, and had a chance and an opportunity to meet a ton of great people, and sat down and said, hey, look, I think I can do this a little bit better and build a team on the loan piece. So we're almost at 2 years now. So October will be 2 years back on the loan side full-time without a active real estate license.
I dig it. Well, part of why I brought you on today, I knew this transition part of the story, but I know what you're bringing in and producing right now. And I know that you've really transitioned from a single LO taking 1003s to a team leader. And not only that, a team leader in multiple states with multiple employees, something that a lot of folks in this group aspire to, or perhaps are very close to achieving, and they just need some extra momentum. So I was hoping that we could hear a little bit of the story about how you got from that single Wells Fargo LO to hey, I've got how many people on your team right now?
We're running with 6 right now.
Okay.
Nice. How many actively originate, just out of curiosity?
4.
Cool.
Yep. So we've got 4. We've got a setup person. Actually Tracy's been a great help with kind of a do it right the first time. So we have a setup person that gets everything in, ready to rock. And then we really treat our loan officers like they're in business with me. And so that's really helped with the team, is it's not a hey, just come with, Leroy and produce under Leroy's type of reign. And that's why if you ever see Fish, if you guys have noticed the name change due to some compliance things, but it's the Romero Lending Group versus Visionary Loan Team. And so we made that change, but the initial vision was to say, hey, I want to go into business with TJ. TJ is great. He's on the East Coast. How can I partner with him and absorb that expense the same way like a real estate company would be with expansion, but do it from the loan side and then work together to help coach, educate, and bring in those realtor relationships to be able to, connect in many different states. And so it's taken about a year and a half. We've gone through some battles and bruises and companies and, some great successes, some not so great successes. So I'm here to share whatever you need.
Cool. I'll tell you, and Leroy, one of the things you'll find with this is Fisher asks one question usually to start, and then you say something and we grab onto that and go down completely different paths. So just if you've watched our videos, that's how these roll. Yep. I think that one of the cool things about what you bring and what you can do for these people that you bring on board and that you work with is you kind of have that unique perspective of working in the real estate industry previously. Plus, you've got to answer to a real estate agent who's the boss of the household every single day. So you get a lot of the unique perspective of what agents need and want out of their lending partners, which kind of allows you to show your folks what to do, what to say, how to build those relationships, right?
It's an awesome point. We have 2 separate businesses, but they intertwine. So if you know Andrea, she was on, she was at Inman and been on the stage a couple times. And I think it's just being in the same room or the same educational things, TJ, events that like Keller Williams is known for a training company, right? So at some of these events and hearing some of those high-level conversations and being a fly on the wall, it allows me to anticipate kind of what the need is of the market and or course correct really quickly if I hear something or see something. But it's not something like we sit down at dinner and say, hey, this is what's coming out. It's more about really being intentional and listening when she's coaching her team or other agents.
That's awesome. Fish, next webinar, we got to get her on.
That would be good. You're trying to essentially, I mean, not recreate, but you're taking, I think you said before we hit the record button, you're taking some of the things that you've seen the realtors do that you think they actually do better than us as loan officers. And you're trying to incorporate those into your lending team. What specific things are they doing better than us right now that you're trying to incorporate that are making a difference?
So I love that, and you're absolutely right. What I really enjoy about the realtor community is that it's sharing information. And Josh Smith, if you know Josh Smith on there, he'll always say, we're information rich, we're implementation poor. And so I really grasped that, and I thought, hey, if we went to the loan officer, and this is why I love this group, is if the real estate community can basically say, hey, look, here's my playbook. Here's the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, book. Here's all this information. Just go do this. Here's the model, right? Well, the loan piece, it's like, hey, this company's doing this, and this is a secret here, so let's just keep it all right here. Or let me not share my LO in fear that they would leave. There's really no reason to do that when you come from abundance. And so that's kind of how we operate with our team. It's, hey, here's the newest thing. Here's what's working. Here's what's not working. Let's test it. If it works, great. If it doesn't, get rid of it. So, but yeah, it's nice to see the movement of the LO community actually saying, hey, look, this is what we do. No more trade secrets per se, but this is how we effectively get people into our funnel. And what do we do from there to nurture and then get the business and then reciprocate it back to the agent community? So it's nice to see that the LOs like you guys that are reciprocating, but also saying, hey, look, I don't have to just sit and say, hey, do you have any deals? Here's a silver platter lead. Those are nice, great, but let me get in the trenches and let me lead generate with you.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, if you had a brand new LO that were coming in, this is one of my favorite questions. It gets answered like on every, or I ask this on every webinar, right, Fish? You have a brand new LO, or even better, I picked you up, I sent a plane out there, dropped you off right here in Baltimore, Maryland. What are you doing to go out there and build business? How are you going out to build relationships? What are the first 2 or 3 things that you do?
I think the one thing is just meeting. So like I've traveled, if like Washington, and then now I live in Boise.
You've done what he just said. You've relocated twice now in the last 2 years, right?
Correct. Yeah. So we have obviously I'm based out of Phoenix, and so we took an opportunity up in Washington, which was amazing, phenomenal agents up there, and then relocated back to Boise, Idaho, which is kind of like my home state, my claim, and so we actually just did that. So the first thing is the title companies are huge as far as contacts and who to talk to. Social media is huge, involving offering services. And then the other thing is whether you're buying leads or what lead source is, like your guys' lead platform, Facebook stuff. I just need to get in dialogue, and then I just need to pick up the phone. So from 9 to 12 is really that lead generation. Not even email. So it's one of those things. I hammer the lead side of it, and then I chat with agents and say, hey, do you happen to have any leads that I can call or get in the trenches with? So that's what I would do. Is I'd start with that. I'd start networking first, but I would try to set appointments and try to get on the phone so I can make contact, and then show agents my intention. And then from there, I would start to build out my own lead funnel. So I'm able to feed myself as well as feed my agents.
We always see a common theme when we ask that question, don't we, Fish? It's always, I work, right? So we saw it with Ashley last week. She spoke about it. Had Dan Keller on here a couple times. It's always the same thing. It's pretty much what you just said there, Leroy. From 9 to 12, from 9 to 11, from 10 to 1, something like that. I'm using this thing right here I'm making phone calls. Ashley last week, we're like, wow, how'd you get 80 credit pulls? She's like, I called my leads. We're like, oh, wow, that's a pretty novel approach right there. You actually called your leads. You didn't just let the magic email work for you.
Right.
You just said it. Dan Keller says it all the time. It's about activity, right? It's making sure that every single day you're prospecting for 3 to 4 hours per day. And that could be calling leads, calling title companies, calling real estate agents. I had a call with a realtor this morning. She's been in the business for 40 years. I said, hey, how have you survived 40 years? She's like, I don't care if someone hangs up on me. She's like, I make phone calls every single day. I don't care if they hang up for me. And we're not saying go out there and make, 60 phone calls a week or something like that. We're saying that the prospecting activities always seem to be, or the top performers that we speak to always seem to have some type of prospecting activities on a daily basis. Fish is all about social media, right? He messages people on Facebook all day long. Right? You're picking up.
I have no clue how many messages I actually send.
Yeah, no, I do.
It's 200-300 a day. I mean,
right.
It's a lot.
So, yep. I would do the same thing, but I try to speak to my wife and children every couple of hours or so. At least a couple times a week. But no, it's the same thing, right? It's just busting your ass, prospecting, being active. More hands you shake, the more money you make. So awesome stuff, man.
Leroy, I put a post in MLO Net last night because Dan Keller had reached out to me just at roughly 4:30, 5 o'clock yesterday, and he wanted to get back on the hangout just like we're doing right now, and he wanted to share how basically it boils down to the things that he did with his team to allow him an extra 1 to 2 hours a day to prospect more. That's quite simply he wants to share exactly how he did that. So he can now spend 6 to 7 hours a day prospecting as opposed to 3 to 5.
Yeah, I think that'll be interesting to see. So I'm spoiled with the team that I have. So I also know that what it's like to just grind, but you do, they call it balance, but it's really like a counterbalance, right? Where you go back and forth, family, business. So that'll be interesting. I'd love to hear that. So it'll be cool to see him on there again. He's always awesome with ideas and what he does with his business for sure.
So back to you. When you moved to Boise, you're prospecting again. You're meeting title companies. Or you're making phone calls. You're seeing people face to face. What's your elevator speech? Like what's your thing that they should work with this brand new guy who was in Phoenix and was in Washington State and is now in Boise? Why should they work with you? What are you saying to kind of get their interest?
I think the military mortgage boot camp part of it is definitely my pitch. So one, and I'm a veteran of the Marine Corps, and I'll use that because I think it's huge as a veteran serving another veteran or serving someone else. Now, you don't have to be a veteran though to be an advocate, and I think that is key. So a quick spiel is just saying, hey, my name's Leroy. I run a mortgage team. I also used to be an agent. I'm a certified C instructor for military mortgage boot camp. I've got some great new VA stuff that's coming out. I want to spill like 5 minutes of your time. Don't worry, I'm not a coffee kind of guy, so I'm not going to take a bunch of your time, but I do want to meet and chat with you. So especially in Boise where, it's a really tight community, and it's been really interesting, I would say, is getting into those niches. Fortunately, I do have a very large book of business, so the title companies were key for me because I can know who those agents are, and then it's just requesting. But here's the great thing about Fitch and Facebook, right? So everyone that's on Facebook that you're connected to, and Fitch said this earlier, is that loan officers out there that are wanting to do the same thing or wanting to build a team, right, or work 40 hours, I don't work more than 40 hours a week, that want to be able to do this. They already have those connections, and everyone is approachable on Facebook. They might read your message. I even had a gal, this is an awesome story. I love stories, by the way, is, they said, hey, I'm looking for a partner, an expansion type of partner, or not expansion, excuse me, but I'm looking for a loan partner in this state, this state, this state. And I sent a message and said, hey, I have 15 states. I've got you covered. And I noticed that she had read my message. And then about 10 minutes later, I said, hey, look, I noticed that you had read my message. So go check out my reviews on, mylenderreview.com. And that'll show you who I am from an agent perspective, as well as from like the consumer perspective. I have an opening on Thursday and Friday between 2 and 4 to be able to discuss multiple states with you, what time works best. And then I got a response 2 minutes later. So that's what I love about Facebook is everybody's approachable. Just do what you say you're going to do and you'll be successful.
Yeah, that's mentioned just a minute ago. And we actually said this before we hit record, how some folks forget that they've already got the connections they need to win and succeed. Andrew Paul actually said that when we did the MLO Net Success series with him 4 or 5 times. And, for you, you seem to find people that you know or people that you have or friends that you have in common with people that you know very quickly and very effectively. And you really do embrace that the more hands you shake, the more money you make mantra. And you don't just spend all your time chasing somebody and then just get frustrated and give up. You just keep going. All right, next person. Okay, cool. Oh, I already know that person. That could be a good relationship. Let's see where this goes kind of mentality. I love it.
Thanks. I heard something that really stuck with me. It was actually at the KW family reunion when I was an agent. Gary Keller was on stage talking to, I think, Lance Loken out of Texas, and they were talking about the amount of leads because we have so many leads, right? I think my team particularly, we have almost 45,000 leads that are IDX, so internet generated or book of business leads in my system. And what Gary Keller said is that the way to get to quality leads is through the quantity that you have, which is the same thing as if you want Navy SEALs, you have to have a Navy. So, hitting the phone and prospecting is really what it just goes back to. And people have that within their book of business. Their book of business, Fitch, it's Facebook. Like, that's your biggest CRM out there. Of course, I'm a fan of LionDesk. I love LionDesk. That's what we use. And so, but yeah, when you're looking at it right there is, hey, do I have a book of business? Yeah, it's called your news feed.
I did not pay him to say this. I did not pay you to say this. I've been saying this, I promise you, for a long time. But, cool. So do you teach and train your team how to use LionDesk and how to prospect on Facebook as well? Do you teach the agents around you to do the same things? I mean, where are the follow-up skills coming from?
Well, fortune's in the follow-up, that's for sure. So we had that event in Austin last week with Masterminds, and we were fortunate enough to be able to sponsor 300 agents coming through, military-focused agents as well. So when it comes to the training aspect of it, yeah, we do have an SLA agreement, right, with my team. So everybody signs it so everybody knows what lane they need to stay in. And then it's just individual coaching every once a week. I've kind of stepped away a little bit with the transition of the move. So Bree actually does that coaching individually, but our loan officers are phone people. They get on the phone, they talk to people, and with agents, it's about the follow-up. So we're a big speed to lead. Every application has to be decisioned within 2 hours, no matter what. And there's got to be an expectation out to the consumer. If it's TJ coming in at 9 o'clock at night, well, he's with his family. Like, I'll probably send like an email. So I'm going to respect those boundaries, but I'm also going to set my own, right? And say, hey, looks like we got your application, right, through pre-app 1003. And what we'll do is we're going to follow up tomorrow morning between 9 and 12 and go over a couple more things that we might need in that application. So we go through that as well. So we use Mojo, LionDesk. Those are our main 2 items or CRMs that we use. So, but yeah, everybody's fully trained and educated on it, and we've got videos through Screencast-O-Matic, so they have that. But what I have learned, making a lot of mistakes with people on the front side, is record everything that you do. I think that's key. So then when you go from an individual agent in October of 2016 to a team of 6, inside of that time frame, you have to record, because it will suck your time, saying, hey, how do you do that again? Hey, how do you do that again? Where it's video 5 lead generation on Mojo, right? It's right there for you. So we walk them through that, and what that does is that allows me to free up my time, whether it's family time or more time prospecting for agents. And then with the agent side of it for education is we're about sharing the systems that we have. So when you look at, and this is kind of more of my opinion, is that when you look at the real estate community, they've been doing teams for a long time. And there's a lot of amazing loan officers that have been doing teams a long time as well. So as more individual loan officers come up and want to create these teams, they've got to go and look where, who's been successful in doing it, in what ways, and what works best for them. And for me, it was a lot of it's video. So I can plug into the next person, and then I share that with those real estate agents. We love working with individual agents. They're great, but I know on the backside of their mind, they're thinking, how big can we go, right? How big can we get a team? And so we prefer to be the specialty to work with teams because we have a team. And then that always keeps that pipe going because we solicit teams. We don't have a ton of agents that we work with, right? So it's not my top 40 or top 20 and belly to belly and all that. I'm in 15 states, so I'm not flying over to Texas, although it might make sense to fly to El Paso because Chastity over there in El Paso, Texas is probably one of the best agents ever and a veteran. So, but yeah, that's a little bit on the education. So
that's awesome though, man. I mean, it's the abundance mentality that you spoke about. It's sharing, it's giving, it's educating, but it's educating where instead of doing it in front of a room of 15 or 20 agents, you kind of have this fish. I can never remember what you call it, but this you have this digital library that can be accessed at any time, multiple times, over and over and over again. And every time someone watches it and they see you teaching, what are you doing? You're branding yourself. You're reinforcing yourself as the expert, and it's something that can be shared constantly. So agent one is kicking ass, shares it with agent two. They're basically promoting you right there. Yeah. That's as always taking notes here, man, because it's great stuff. It's great stuff. Fish, I think you're muted, buddy. All right. Fish, you're not coming through, pal. So you look like you're having a great conversation right there because you're smiling and you're laughing and you look like you're really proud of the comment that you're making right there.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Now you're back. All
right. Sorry. My bad. All right. So digital assets, I believe, is what we called it.
There you go. Yep.
So, but like you said, he's positioning himself as an authority and he's setting it up so that people are going to see his face again and again and again and again. And that's how you build a brand. So I dig it, dude. Leroy, I got like one question left, and then I think we'll try to keep this at 20, 25 minutes like we usually do. You've got mostly service veterans on your team. Was that intentional, or was it just because of the circles that you run in? How did you hire the loan officers that are on your team right now?
Awesome question. I didn't start out successful, so that's super important. I went traditional loan officers, people that were in the business a little longer and wanted some leads. And so what I noticed is that the traditional mindset of a loan officer or some loan officers, you really have to go deep, right? So we do the DISC profile. If you're not familiar with that, Tony Robbins DISC profile, just tonyrobbins.com/DISC profile or DISC. And I go into that pretty deep because there are certain personalities that might not make a ton of sense with the matchup. So I have to build my team to be able to work with every personality, right, and keep people in their strengths. So the first 3 loan officers I hired didn't work. And so I expected lead generation for three hours a minimum a day, and that they just didn't want to do that. So it's obviously not a match because we had a certain vision in mind to expand our team. And so how we got that is, I honestly focused on call center loan officers and just was very direct on what we needed to do. And, it started with Amanda, and Amanda recruited Nick. And then we put a pretty pricey ad out with Bree and snagged her up from iMortgage and Loan Depot. And then she's my operational business partner. And so she's also a call center LO. And so she had kind of all the tools. And then from there, it was about our advocacy for veterans. And so it was from myself to Nick to Justin, who's Army as well. So he came onto the team after seeing how we function. And then we got a referral over for Denise, our setup from Shauna Patterson over in Surprise. And she said, hey, I know this Navy veteran. We're veterans. She's an Army veteran. Veterans work with veterans. And so that's kind of how it worked out. So we got everybody with Coast Guard. We are in the desert in Phoenix. And so, but we'd love to bring on the Coast Guard as well. But it kind of just ended that way. And then what I have noticed, though, is that everybody that's been on the team, we have that same mindset is to help as many veterans as we can, but not just the individual veterans, but it's really the public to understand just how that works as an advocate for veterans on the VA loan. Obviously that's what we specialize. We want to say we specialize in. By no means are we experts, but what we want to do is get them in contact and help agents know where to point their veterans, because everyone knows a veteran.
That's awesome, man. I love it. And just for everyone that's watching, call center LOs, don't knock them. They came up in a different world. Don't knock them, because there's a lot of hardworking, good salespeople that come from those call centers that were accustomed to making a certain living right now, that had that fire to get back there. If you can do what, Leroy, what you said, if you can set up that blueprint, hey, this is what you need to do. These are what the expectations are. If you do these things, you'll be successful. They're a great hire. So now, that being said, there's a lot of them, a lot of these call center LOs. I know I managed most of them, right, that just want to sit there and stare at their computer and wait for somebody to call in and say, hey, man, let's go ahead and do a loan. So, but if you can find that hardworking, good salesperson that just happened to come up in that environment, that's a great person to bring onto your team.
I love that point. When you start to expand, the thinking of it with a call center LO, or if you're not familiar with that, you're traditional. If I can bring somebody into my world and I have 45,000 leads, and that's without me going out and proactively every day soliciting business. If I can bring them into my world and say, hey, if you could just watch this nest with these agents right here and make sure that we look like we're rock stars, and then I just bring in another LO and say, hey, if you could just watch this nest and make sure we're rock stars with this agent, and then on, and it should really be in multiple states. We're just not there yet, but that's kind of the vision.
Yep, that's awesome. So,
Well,
yeah, I do too.
Let's wrap up. Leroy, thanks again for jumping in. If folks have questions, can they Facebook message you for at least a day?
Absolutely.
All right, cool.
Yeah, it's Leroy Romero, VA Loan Master.
Like it, dude. Like it.
Awesome. Hey, man, great stuff. Thank you for your support. Thank you for participating. You're a good friend to us. And you're great for this community. And like I said, that abundancy mentality, Fish has been preaching it for years. I'm slowly getting there, but it's awesome seeing someone like you who's embraced it, just rocking and rolling. So, all right, we're done. I got to go meet a broker. Fish, you want to wrap it up, man?
Let's just leave MLO net style. Rock on, take imperfect action, something like that, right?
You missed it, dude. I set you up to say something smart.
I know.
Couldn't do
I'm
it.
trying to let you lead the closer, but
All right, everyone. Thanks so much.